So that's why I'm doing now. I wrote Eagle Spirit Sovereignty, which is wisdom from others on the natural world or preservation. I really feel now that anything we need to embrace our eternal, freedom and preservation. I focus on this idea of spiritual sovereignty, not sovereignty of that somebody can take away, because as you know, sovereignty can be taken away by your government. It can be taken away by other governments. You can end up in prison. You can end up in prison like Nelson Mandela.
Welcome to the Transform You Live show. If you are a Hollywood Titan, well, actually, you are a Hollywood Titan. 36 years running, Equal Vision Entertainment, producing for CBS, Disney, Netflix, you name it, with 4 Emmys and 14 Telly Awards to prove it. Your book, Eagle Spirit for Sovereignty, is dropping spiritual gems from nature to keep us grounded. I'm hyped to have you on to kick off the series for our change seekers, creatives, and chaos factors. So are you ready to share that Hollywood wisdom with us?
Absolutely, Marcus. Thank you for having me. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's definitely a pleasure to have you. So you've been in Hollywood 36 years, rocking with icons like Tom Cruise and Taylor Swift, but you said it's rare to see folks from the early days still around. For our creatives who's Googling career longevity in Hollywood or how to stay relevant in entertainment, what's the one mindset or strategy that's kept you thriving through industry shifts from analog to AI?
Well, there's been some big changes, obviously, in the last few years, but I think that I just stayed grounded. I stayed with what and who I was as I came, the person that came to Hollywood. I've just, tried to remain in that mindset. Um, I've also tried to, ebb and flow with the different changes that Hollywood has seen over the years, and it's quite different from the Hollywood that I experienced when I first got here, over 35 years ago. There's been big changes, and a lot of the platforms now are different. Movies were the focus when I came here originally, and then TV sort of started to take off, and that's where I pivoted. And when I pivoted, I sort of rode the wave of television. Now everything's going to streaming, and 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 the old school ways that we've have been pretty much devastated.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. So yeah, you definitely can testify to the fact that you seen Hollywood change on COVID, streaming, AI, all of it.
Yeah.
For those mid-career pros and veterans who's searching how to adapt to industry change, what's the biggest lesson you learned about staying flexible without losing your core, especially with a visual disability that you kept over under wraps for years?
Yeah, I mean, I think with the visual disability, I really did keep it under wraps. I've never tried to let it limit me and who I was. I just sort of, um, do and perform things to the best of my ability. So, y- you know, I think that I never really used that as a crutch. I just sort of plowed through. I didn't let that slow me down. I wanted to be a businessman. I wanted to be in this business, and so I
Yeah.
that. And you know, things that I've learned from nature in terms of adapting. Nature is one of the greatest adapters at uh, and is a lesson there for us all to learn from. And so I just tried to adapt. I tried to, ebb and flow with the changes that were made. I tried to, I, I really used the community of my peers to bounce things off of all the time. We were always, even though some of us might have been considered competitors, we really looked at it as sort of a band of brothers, and then we really tried to pivot and use each other and what we are learning in the, you know, in the network of where we were, we tried to
Right.
bounce that off of each other and learn from each other.
Yeah, I like that idea. Nature is a great blueprint for us, and when it comes to maintaining that flow and maintaining the ability to adapt. Hollywood has this youth obsession that's really crazy, and they discount the fact that Hollywood itself is a big fraternity, and when you meet awesome people within the network, um, I can definitely see how faith and nature become timeless. When it comes to like having timeless purpose. So having worked with like legends like George Clooney and Shaq, what's the emotional toll of watching peers step back or get pushed out, and how do you keep your head up when the spotlight shifts?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny that we're we're talking about this today because I just received word yesterday that a show that I had been a part of for 32 years was coming to a close. They decided to
Yeah.
cancel the show. That's going to happen at the end of September, and I'm preparing again for another wave of colleagues that will be pushed out, that will leave town, sell their houses, whatever it is that they have to do. It's pretty devastating to watch. Went to a memorial service recently. There's people who are struggling with all types of things that we can't even realize as we sit here, you and I. Maybe perhaps you can. You've dealt with PTSD, and so it's a real struggle for people. A lot of identity comes from what it is that they do, and
Yeah.
I've tried to maintain an integrity about my identity is who I am in the non-visible form,
Mhm.
non-physical form. We tend to identify really quickly with physical form, cars, houses, things that are material objects, things that we're able to obtain, careers, those kind of things, the representations of those kind of things, whether it be awards or those sort of things. And I've tried to not identify with that. I've tried to identify with who I am uh, from a spiritual standpoint. Tried to always, remember who I am internally and what I bring to the table in a non-physical form. And so it's a real struggle for people. I'm watching the industry be decimated. A lot of just so your audience realizes this, I've worked in entertainment, uh, pretty much like the entertainment news side of things. And that's what's really getting pummeled because a lot of people are getting their news from the internet. A lot of people are getting their news in different ways now. And so that's what's being really, really sort of crushed as we speak. There are still shows being produced by Netflix and Amazon and other production companies that are bringing this to, but a lot of the money has run away in other directions. And when money leaves and when the finances leave, a lot of dominoes tumble. Um, and so this entertainment news side of things, whether it be behind the scenes and all these other kind of things that we do and we produce for these shows, they're all going bye-bye. And they're finding different ways to reach audiences, whether they be social media platforms and through influencers. We've seen a big wave of that happen, even on red carpets and big award shows that we do. We see a lot more influencers, less broadcast television cameras. So broadcast television has really taken this on the chin. And so I guess maybe back to your original point that, watching all these people tumble and go through this is definitely COVID. We watched it, we all got a glimpse. This town and this this year has really taken it more on the chin because we did have COVID which changed everything. People joined platforms like this, Riverside, Zoom. They got all their information this way, and that really changed who was needed to produce these sort of things. Um, Whereas traditionally, we used to be the guys that go in and do these major interviews and get them out to the networks. But now that's all being shared by the internet. And so you really have to, I guess the point that I'm trying to get to is that, identifying with these kind of things that are fleeting. These are fleeting things. These are on the arc of your life. There's, careers and these kind of things are very short in the arc of your life. There's sort of a blip on the radar. It's sort of like zooming out when you look at the stock market. You see the stock market go up and whatever, but if you zoom out and you look over time, you see that the ebbs and flows are much smaller than they seem at the current time. So what what I think, and getting back to nature, the ultimate adapter, nature will adapt to anything. It will
Right.
adapt to our destroying it. And so, you know, I think that I use nature as my model. I try to remember who I am non physically, and then and stay true to that. And so that's by doing now. I wrote Eagle Spirit Sovereignty, which is wisdom from others on the natural world, on or preservation. I really feel now that anything we need to embrace our internal, freedom and preservation. I focus on this idea of spiritual sovereignty, not sovereignty of that somebody can take away. Because as you know, sovereignty can be taken away by your government. It can be taken away by other governments. You can end up in prison. You can end up in prison like Nelson Mandela, but nobody can take away who you are internally and who you are spiritually speaking. So that's what I'm focusing on, and that's why I'm out there talking to wonderful people like you.
I appreciate that. Man, you really dropping truth bombs, Brian, and you're so right on so many levels. And I even think back to when I first started this 10 years ago. We were just talking about this on the other side. Like the landscape in media has just changed, and they call us new media. Yeah, and I look at it like what? So like I've been around for 10 years, and I started around the time Joe Rogan did, and and you're right. The landscape has changed so much, and we didn't have platforms like this when I first started, and I never would imagine that. Like, I wouldn't, like being able to produce things myself. I wouldn't call myself a producer. Um, I got so much respect for the old guard, and what they call now traditional media and old media. Um, you know, it it's one of the reasons that that kind of inspired me to do what I do, and just to see things change, but what the book said, your book says, equal spirit for sovereignty. Sovereignty is so important. There's so many lessons from nature, bald eagle strength. For creative searching, career reinvention after 50, or finding purpose after Hollywood. How's your focus on spiritual sovereignty? Staying centered despite stress, help you pivot from producer to author, and keep you shaping your legacy.
Yeah, it's been interesting because a lot of what I've done in the past has been behind the scenes. I've been the guy that's producing the interviews or shooting these things or speaking with people behind the scenes. Now I'm sort of out in front and out center. I feel like a bird that sort of was caged and now I'm being let go. To fly out there in the wild. This is kind of interesting. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think that, Marcus, I think one of the things that I wanted to convey to your audience and why this book was so important is that when I was a young child, uh, I I really looked to the bald eagle as my mentor. I really used it as a mentor, and that's what the book speaks to. Is that how? And it was discovered very early in my life that I had a visual disability. So what better champion than the bald eagle to teach me how to see? Um, and I really saddled up with that idea. I really, the bald eagle at the time that I was a child was on the endangered species list. I don't know how much you know about the history of the
Yeah,
bald
remember
eagle,
that.
but it was,
Yeah.
yeah, it was on the endangered species list, and there was, you know, relatively, very few bald eagle pairs in the wild, and it really took. Um, so I looked at that. I looked at that. At that symbol that we had, sort of in our as our as our symbol of our nation, even. And what could it teach me? What could it teach me about struggle, survival, perseverance, all those kind of things and vision, just having vision, but not physical vision, vision that would allow you to see the big picture, allow you to see things sort of in a different, I think what we're talking about here now is a spiritual way. Um, how to have that great vision spiritually speaking. And so I use that, and this book sort of chronicles a little bit of my life and how I was able to overcome some of the obstacles that I had to persevere, and then what it allowed me to achieve, and how to this very day I use that eagle as my mentor. Um, and so I think that that was relevant to sort of bring out COVID and bring to an audience. I really felt that. I knew the pivot was happening for our industry. I knew it was coming for me, and I think that that's one of the great things that indigenous people really loved about the eagle, was that the eagle can see the other side of the mountain. We can only see the front of the mountain as we look at it, but the eagle, from its great perspective, is able to see both sides. It's able to see around the mountain. And I think that right now, more than ever, we need to remember that, and be able to look beyond the mountain, because a lot of us struggle, even me these days, as I see my friends and colleagues get dismantled from their positions. It's a struggle, and it's a struggle, and I go back to that. It's like, let's remember that we're only able to see this part of the mountain, and it looks inclimbable, um but the eagle can really show us, with its great perspective, that there is another side, and there will be another side, and we just need to stay the course, and keep moving, in a positive direction.
I love that. That's a beautiful illustration that you painted for us, and it makes me think of this biblical verse, like having this faith, the seed of a mustard seed to move a mountain. Um, and in this respects, that the mountain is what stops people from moving forward. It's what causes people to become complacent and stay where they are. And I think that's one of the hardest things for people to get over, and to take the eagle's eye and look on the other side and say, hey, there's hope over there. There's something better, than what I've been doing. It only gets better with time, as they put it. So um, for our hope seekers out there facing their own battles, what's the hardest truth you faced about self preservation that now gives you the gas to get on your mission to inspire others?
Well, in terms of self-preservation, like I talked about, is most people think that sovereignty is something that is granted to you, and given to you by a nation state, um, you know, whether it be anywhere in the world, and that can quickly be taken away. Your sovereignty can be taken away in a heartbeat. I referred to Nelson Mandela, who lived some 26 years in prison, in a prison cell. Actually, was about 7 by 8 feet wide, and he wasn't even given a bed. He slept on a mat, and he persevered. Right? He sat
Right.
there for 26 years, and when he was democratically elected president, he didn't come out and start to annihilate everybody who put him in prison. Um, he dedicated his life towards peace and seeing it as spiritual sovereignty. That's about in the book. That was why I said discuss in this book is what makes the kind of individuals superior in the fact that they remember who they are and not let circumstances change them. I, you know, I wanted to double down on that and really say this is that not only can sovereignty be taken away by your government or wherever you might live in the world, your circumstances, but your sovereignty can be taken away by yourself. You can you can put yourself in prison. You can put yourself in a mental prison. Um,
Oh yeah.
you can put yourself in unhappy scenarios, unhappy circumstances. You can live that life and you can take away your own sovereignty. And so what I try to outline in this book is how you can save yourself. Save
Mhm.
yourself from that prison, save yourself from that aggravation. No matter whatever your circumstances are, you might find somebody, a friend in a wheelchair. You might be like myself, which is you're trying to persevere in a visual art with one eye when everybody else has two. And and don't don't take yourself out of the game. Maintain your spiritual sovereignty. Um, you know, heart. Stick with who you are, and don't let the world or circumstances change you. Um, remember what it is that you're here to learn and to achieve. Try to get in touch with that. Try to get in touch with who you are on a spiritual side, and stick with it, and stay with it, and don't let it change you. Just like Nelson Mandela.
Love that, and that's a real good legacy to lead to, and embracing that and into your daily walk now. I want speaking of daily practice and daily walk, this would be the last question I have for you too. So like, what's one daily practice, like a question or ritual that you lean on to stay spiritually grounded and to keep your career soar like that bald eagle?
Well, I think I think one of the things that I try to do is I try to get out into nature. Of course, if I spend too much time indoors, I really feel like I want to go outside, and in nature is I live in a part of the country right now, Los Angeles, which has struggled to regain its bald eagle population. Um, they are out on the coast. They're in Catalina, and they're of course in Big Bear because everybody sees the Big Bear Eagle camera, which is wonderful. But so I don't get the fortunate experience. I have to actually travel a little bit to get to see them. I try to go out in nature all the time, and it doesn't matter if there's a bald eagle outside my window like it used to be when I was a kid. But there are other birds, and there's a tremendous, wonderful, tapestry of
Yeah.
nature. And I try to get out into nature. That's one of my rituals, is to try to get out there because nature is ever changing. And and as you well know, and everybody well knows, there's climate change, and there's things that are happening out in nature where a lot of us, we enforce this sort of parasitic relationship that we have with Mother Earth. It's not just this endless supply of natural resources. It's something that we need to be stewards of. It's something that we need to honor, that we need to kind of maintain, and we need to go out and appreciate. And it doesn't matter if you're nature journaling, which is one of the things that I endorse. The other thing is just walking,
Mhm.
leaving your phone in your pocket, leaving your headphones out of your ears, but just enjoying nature, enjoying because there's every sense that you have is enforced and reinforced with being in nature, whether it be from sight, sound, smell, you name it. All of your senses are stimulated in nature, and I think that will allow us to develop this greater sense of intuition and
Yeah.
and peace and inner harmony. um, without going into all the studies that are done with how nature really affects us in a positive way, um, I think that we all know it inherently, you know.
We do. And it's the best way to get grounded too. Whenever you need to be grounded, just going out in nature, putting your feet in the grass, putting your feet in the dirt. It, it really, balances the things that's really out of whack within you, and it helps to develop that intuition that you're talking about. Um, I really love how you put that forward and put that out there for us. And, you know, so like, man, this has been a great conversation. Your wisdom was straight fire. If we would have put it on the tape, that tape and send it over to Hollywood, we have a best full feature movie. That go get the Golden Globe and Grammy,
Well,
Oscars. Yeah,
I appreciate that.
yeah,
I know that these things are quick and they're hard for us to sort of really get too in depth for
yeah,
people, but
yeah.
I appreciate those kind words.
Yeah, yeah. Whenever you want to spin the block again, man, and have another conversation, I'm definitely open to it. I know our fans would appreciate it out there. Um, like because there's so much we could have touched on, so much we could have got deeper on. I really hate that like time is limited on what I'm doing right now.
Yeah,
So yeah.
for sure. For sure. And I mean, your audience is welcome to reach out. If anybody, I do a lot of other, work in terms of like speaking and I'm writing more. I'm relaying messages, to people.
Mhm.
I'm working with people individually and in small groups. I don't mind people reaching out. They can reach me at Bryan at eaglevisionla.com if they want to reach out. There will be a book website that comes out the end of this week, I believe it is. But
Okay.
the book is on Amazon. Eagle Spirit for Sovereignty. Bryan H. Shepard is the name, and I encourage your listeners to reach out. I encourage you as well. Any friends or family that want to reach out. I love talking and exchanging these ideas with people and connecting with them in a deeper way. So yeah, if there's ever another spin you want to take, if there's something you want to double click on that we talked about, that would be fabulous. But first of all, I want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to just speak with you because it's an honor and a pleasure.
Same here, brother. It's much more of an honor for me than you may know. So it's definitely a privilege, to have people like you around, to exchange with. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen out there, I want to give it up one more time for Bryan H. Shepard, who's incredible person. Check out his book. And, as he mentioned, it is on Amazon. So that you can grab that book there, and we'll have his, contact and direct link to the Amazon in our episode description. So until then, thank you guys. Thank you. Right.
I stand for what you stand for. I'm at your door like the landlord. I can see the future, yeah, I fast forward. I get on the mic and I transform. Follow me, I'm in rare form. Follow me on this world tour. The asteroid that you can't avoid.